Hey y'all, it's Bear, and this week I'm going to be reading brown books. So this is not an original concept at all. It's not a reading experiment. It's not anything like that. Basically, I want to read more off of my physical TBR this year, and I want to film more vlogs because I miss vlogging. And this is a way that I can, ignore me, I'm stacking the books up right here. This is a way that I can film a vlog and have different books that don't necessarily, I don't feel like a pressure to read because the theme is so vague. It's not like I'm going to be scrambling to find books if something doesn't work out. Like if I'm reading a book idea and I don't have to scramble to find something else that fits, because colors of covers are very like general. Usually lots that can fall into that category. This is the video that my patrons voted for me to film the month of January, so hello. It's currently like January 10th that I'm filming this, so I think that means it's Monday. And for the next week, I'm going to be reading books with brown covers. You might ask, why brown? It's because brown is my favorite color. I read somewhere a long time ago, whenever I was first getting into astrology, that brown is like a Virgo color, and because I'm a Virgo, I kind of like just made it, that's my favorite color now. It gives me like the sense of like being grounded and stable, and that's not something that I feel very often or have felt very often in the past in my life, and it's comforting, it's neutral, it's not overwhelming. So I have like 11 books that I would say have predominantly brown on the cover. Some of them lean more toward yellow, some of them lean more toward orange, and some of them are just straight up brown. I feel like with these two, the covers aren't really brown, but like it's the main color that catches my eye on both of these covers. And then you have like khaki and sepia tones. These are two that are like white and brown, like white with different shades of browns and oranges, which I think might be my favorite type of brown cover. I like the contrasting colors because it highlights both of them more. I'd say these three are pretty standard brown covers. They're brown. And these two almost lean more into like the orange category. So those are the 11 books I have to choose from. I do have a readathon going on right now, and I need to read the group book for the Last Great American Readathon, which is Brimstone by Sherry Priest. So that one's going on the TBR. I think it's time that I read Tales for a Talking Board. I picked this up a while ago and DNF'd it, and I need to continue on with it, so I'm going to try and read this week. I'm in a horror mood, but not necessarily like scary horror. I'm in the mood for like more vibes than actual like terror. So let's also put Shock Totem on there. This is a horror zine. And then I want to get to Velvet as the Night by Sylvia and Miranda Garcia. This is a maybe. And then we'll do Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I'm not reading this whole thing, it's multiple stories, but we're going to read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde this week. So throughout the week, I will tell you what these books are about. I feel like it's kind of redundant to do it in the intro, but these are the 5 things I'm going to try and read this week for this vlog. I'm probably not going to finish all of them. I'm not expecting to finish all of them. Like I said, this is a video that was voted on by my patrons, so thanks to all of you who voted on this one. So I think to start off, I'm going to do Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's like less than 90 pages, and I have read this before. I did read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde as like a 4th grader. I'm curious to see what adult Bear takes out of it that like 4th grade Brody did not get out of it at all. So yeah, we'll see. I will update you when I'm done with this. Also, the edges are sprayed brown. This is the book to read for this. So yeah, I will see you in a bit whenever I have read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I am clean shaven. I know, I hate it. Finished Dr. Chuckle and Mr. Hyde. It's now like many days later. I did end up giving it 5 stars. It was a lot more, definitely enjoyed it more as an adult than I did as a kid. I feel like there's something about the way that the writing is. I think even though the plot is, pretty straightforward, I feel like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is such a part of pop culture, like you're not gonna be surprised or amazed by the twist because everyone generally knows what the twist is. I gave it 5 stars because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the writing. I read on Goodreads someone described the writing as like feeling like you're drinking like a very heavy wine. I definitely agree with that. I think it was, the writing made it. It was very atmospheric and it was a good time. That being said, with most classics that I have read, there's not a whole lot of character work to be commented on. There's not like spooky, gory, shocky anything. Like it's a classic Victorian literature, so it's kind of bland, but I still gave it 5 stars because I rated it for what it is rather than what it would be now. Now onto the book that is causing me so much grief, and if I were not reading it for the Last Great American Readathon, I would have DNF'd it already, and that is Brimstone by Sherry Priest. And here's the thing, I am enjoying this book. I like the two different characters. I like reading about Casadega and all of the goings on there. I like reading this mystery with Tomas and the fire. Issues is that we are now on page 186, and our two characters have just met. So we're reading about a medium living in Casadega, Florida, and a man who is a war veteran who has returned home from the war to discover that his wife is dead. Fires keep happening around the both of them. So, like, people get burned, things burn down, like, shapes are burned onto the wall and in the smoke and stuff, and it's very atmospheric, very moody. But like I said, we're almost 200 pages in and our characters have just now met, and this book is only around 300 pages and change. So I wish that they would have met like maybe 50 pages earlier so we could have got to the point a little bit faster. But the building is doing it, the tension is doing it. It's just so slow that I would have DNF'd it had I not been reading it for the vlog. I do have an issue with the language used in the book though, because it's set in, I think, the 1920s. There's some very dated language used that I don't necessarily think should be in the book. I talked about this when I discussed My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. You don't have to use, like, racist language in order to make your book historically accurate. We'll get more into that whenever I finish the book, because, like I said, I do have around 100 and change pages left. I am going to get my booster today, so I will update you after that. The first couple of vaccines, the first 2 doses that I got, I had really rough side effects for a couple of days because I had COVID in 2020, as most of y'all know. So I'll let you know how I'm feeling after that booster. I've heard it's going to put me on my ass. Might switch up my TBR, actually, and ditch Shock Totem in exchange for Ego Tripping by Nikki Giovanni. Hi, welcome to my bathroom for a change of scenery, so I'm not just sitting in front of my bookshelf this whole video. Update on my booster. I got it yesterday, and I was, like, feeling kind of off. Like, I had a pretty negative reaction to my vaccine 1 and 2, but, like, my booster, like, 30 minutes after I got my shot, my whole arm was numb, and today I felt like crap. I was draggy, I had chills, I was, you know, my whole arm was hurting. At one point I woke up and both of my arms were numb. This is because I had COVID in 2020. I've heard that if you have had COVID in the past, then your reactions to vaccine and boosters are a little bit more intense. I literally have not been off of the couch except to go to the bathroom and, like, make myself a quesadilla, and that's all I've accomplished today. I did finish Brimstone by Sherry Priest. Once we got to the part of the book where our characters actually met each other in person, I definitely started enjoying it a little bit more. I think the action definitely picked up. However, I just wish that that would have happened, like, a lot earlier. I don't want to spoil the ending of the book, but I feel like it takes us so long to get to what is described in the synopsis, where we're talking about war and, like, Tomas using the flamethrower machine and him getting to Casadega and, you know, the fires that happen in Casadega and Alice coming into her powers. It's so long by the time in the book that we actually get to that we're basically in the climax. So I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I do think it got better towards the end, but my issue still stands with the outdated language used in this book. I think that, you know, this was published in 2017. You don't have to include words that were commonplace in the 1920s. I don't believe that you need to use language like that in order to make a book historically accurate. I just don't. Now onto a book that I enjoyed a lot more. We have Ego Tripping and Other Poems for Young People by Nikki Giovanni. This was a poetry collection that Will got me for Christmas because it's one of their favorites, and I really, really enjoyed it. I'm not usually a fan of love poems. I find them to be kind of sappy and, like, but Nikki Giovanni writes love poems not only to other people, but to herself in a very beautiful way. Now, not all of these are love poems, but a lot of these poems talk about the Black experience. Like, there's gorgeous art just throughout the book. I think my 3 favorite poems would be Ego Tripping. That was, I think, Will's favorite in this. I also really liked The Genie in the Jar. I liked Poem for Black Boys, and I liked Knoxville, Tennessee, and then Foundation Wise Rock Solid. Those were my, like, highlights in here. So I ended up giving this 5 out of 5 stars. I want to read more poetry this year. I read quite a bit of poetry on my channel, but, like, this was a nice start. as my first poetry collection of 2022. So that's now 3 books under my belt for this vlog. I still want to read Tales from a Talking Board. I still want to read Velvet Was the Night. It's definitely been over a week since I've started this, but I kind of don't care. I'm just doing this however long it takes me to read the books. If I can stay awake much longer, I think I'm going to try and read some stories from Tales from a Talking Board. And then maybe we'll finish out the video with Velvet Was the Night. So it's time to wrap this video up. I have 4 books that I finished reading in this vlog, and 1 that I did not. Let's go ahead and talk about that one first. So the one that I didn't finish, and it's not that I'm DNFing it, like I'm still continuing to read it, I just won't be able to finish it in time for this video to go up, is Velvet Is the Night by Sylvia Miranda Garcia. And I think honestly this might have been my favorite out of everything that I picked up in the vlog. It's set in 1970s Mexico City. It's this noir kind of gangs and reporters and people are tailing each other, and it's giving me like really good energy. I feel like this is gonna be a 5-star for sure. I'm just not gonna finish it for this video. It's kind of slow and I want to really take my time to enjoy it and be able to have a full concise thought on it rather than just struggling to rush finishing it for a video. So I do plan on vlogging this one later in the year for something different, but I kind of just want to sit it down for now and really take my time savoring it, because something I realized with a lot of Sylvia Miranda Garcia books I've read, like I said, I've read 2 already, that being Mexican Gothic and Gods of Jade and Shadow, is her writing is not slow, but I have to read it slowly in a way that I can really appreciate it, because she has this very full writing style. So it's like, think of it like eating food. Like, you want to take your time to enjoy a good meal. You want to, you know, whenever you're wearing like a nice outfit, you want to wear it as long as you can, right? You don't just want to like rush through your day. So that's where we're at with this, but I am enjoying it, and I don't want you to think that I'm not. We'll just go backwards in order from most recently finished to first finished. We have Tales from a Talking Board. This one was edited by Eric E. Lockhart, and while I did enjoy a lot of the stories in this, I felt like most of them were filler. So I think there's like 14 stories in here, and of these 14 stories, I gave maybe 3-4 of them 5 stars. I don't think this is something that's like super necessary for you to add to your collection, but I think that the standouts are Christy DeMeester's Yes, No, Goodbye, J.M. McDermott's The Devil and the Bugle Boys, Matthew M. Bartlett's Deep into the Skin, Tiffany Scandal's Grief, and Nadia Bulkin's May You Live in Interesting Times. I don't think this is a collection that you need to like stress yourself out if you can't find. Like, if it sounds interesting and compelling to you, go for it. I am not endorsing it, nor am I shitting on it. It was very middle of the road for me personally, because a lot of the stories that I did not mention that are on the lower end of the rating scale for me tried to do really subversive things, and it was cool with what they tried to do, but it wasn't anything that I really found interesting or compelling or unique. The other one, I totally forgot to mention like my favorite story, and that is Questions and Answers by David Templeton. And this one I enjoyed the most because it did something fun and different, because instead of looking at it from like a horror perspective, we look at it from the ghost perspective. The spirit's actually getting to operate the board, and it talks about the different rules and how humans have rules for Ouija, and therefore like how the ghosts who operate the boards and kind of these off aesthetics also have rules. That was like the one story that I thought like subverting the tropes really worked, because it's not so much a subversion of the trope, it's still included, it's just offering a different perspective, whereas some of the other stories were just like, we're gonna try and completely reinvent the wheel, or the board, so to speak, and it just didn't work. Then we have Brimstone by Sherry Priest, which I think I'm gonna settle with a 2-star rating. I enjoyed the writing, I enjoyed the character work, I enjoyed the vibes of this book, but not the actual execution of the book. I mentioned a couple of times before, I do have problems with the outdated language that you use. Like, just because your story is set in 1920s doesn't mean you have to use racist language in your book for your white characters to say to characters of color. So while I think that the vibes of the book were great, I think that the characters and their personalities were very interesting and fun, and I really liked the latter half, whenever the 2 protagonists finally actually met and things got going and we really got down to the nitty-gritty of the plot. The beginning, like, third, maybe like half of this book dragged quite a bit, and I think that it suffered for it. So I think, like, you know, it could have been good, and it just wasn't, and I don't know that I'll be picking up anything from Sherry Priest in the future. the best thing about this book is the cover. So then I also read Ego Tripping by Nikki Giovanni and other poems for young people. These are multiple poems in here. This was, like I said, a Christmas gift from Will, and this was a poetry collection that meant a lot to them, so of course I wanted to read it. I know that I mentioned my favorite poems in the update I did, but I think on further reflection, I think my favorite poem is probably the title poem, Ego Tripping, because the way that Nikki Giovanni writes is a love letter to her and her body and her blackness, and I thought it was just beautiful. Like I said before, I don't like love poems, but Nikki Giovanni made me like a love poem. And then also getting to read this and getting to discuss it with Will and having that conversation was very fun. I always like to read books that people that I love, so that I can understand a little bit more about them, and I feel like I understand Will and their tastes a little bit more after reading this. So this was an easy 5 stars. Then we have, I think, probably the most surprising to me, hands down, and that is Dr. Jekyll and Mr Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. Who am I to give a classic 5 stars, but I did. There's been something in my brain lately that's been like needling me to get into more classics. Like, why do I, after living on this earth for 25 years, am suddenly interested in reading Little Women? I have no idea. I'm blaming this. But what I enjoyed about Dr. Jekyll and Mr Hyde, I think, comes from the writing style. I find a lot of times classic writing can be a little bit clunky for my taste, but I'm not really appreciating classic literature. So reading something that it has this like very thick, almost like earthen, the writing feels damp, and you can really feel this, you know, town with these like this mysterious man running around doing all of these bad things, and the vibes of the book match the plot, and that's really what I want out of literature in general. I want everything to feel very cohesive, and this was one of the more cohesive things that I read this month. So surprisingly, 5 stars, and I'm glad that this is multiple short stories so that I can read more of Robert Louis Stevenson. This was really fun. I didn't intend to have any kind of interesting commentary on anything. I wasn't trying to find a trend of like, do all brown books feel this way, or do all brown books read this way, or how many brown books can I read in a month? I wasn't doing that. It was just like a fun way to theme a reading vlog and to get myself to pick up some things on my TBR that might have sat there a little bit longer. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much to sign off with. Like I said, this video was voted on by my patrons, so if you want to have the opportunity to vote for one video I post every month, you can check out my Patreon, which is linked downstairs. If you enjoyed this video, you can let me know by liking, subscribing, sharing as you see fit, all that good stuff, as well as answering the comment question of the day, which today is going to be, if I am to do this video again with a different color, what color would you want to see? Like, do you want to see me read pink books? Do you want to see me read black books, blue books, red books? What do you want? And if you don't have time, you don't have the spoons, you don't have an answer, or you don't want to answer, let me know you made it all the way until the end of the video by leaving me an emoji, preferably a yellow heart or a smiley face emoticon. All my social media links, as well as everything I mentioned today, will be downstairs. Alright, I hope you have a wonderful whatever it is, wherever you are, and I will see you next time with another video. Thank you for watching. Okay, cool. Bye.